To speak of silence is already to break it. The mind that seeks stillness is the mind that disturbs it. Thought, that restless machine, is always one step ahead of itself, chasing after what it cannot catch. A truly thoughtless being, a mind without movement, would be indistinguishable from death. And yet, sages have spoken of another kind of thoughtlessness, not the absence of mind, but its transcendence. The untrained mind is like a chattering bird, hopping from one idea to the next, never landing for long. It mistakes noise for knowledge, movement for meaning. Even when it seeks silence, it does so noisily, wrestling with itself, analyzing its own analysis, trapping itself in recursive loops of cognition. But what if the mind could stop chasing? What if thought could cease without collapsing into unconsciousness? There is something terrifying about the idea of a thinker without thought. Such a being moves without hesitation, acts without doubt. From the outside it looks like madness, or worse, emptiness. But is it emptiness, or is it fullness beyond conception? The difference between an automaton and an enlightened master is not in their lack of thought, but in the origin of their action. One moves because it has no choice. The other moves because choice has become irrelevant. Consider this: by the time you register a thought, it is already a relic of the past. Reality happens first, cognition follows. You are always one step behind yourself, narrating events that have already slipped through your fingers. Even before you speak, your words have already formed in the silent corridors of the mind. But what about before that? What about the raw experience before thought claims it? We do not think reality, we remember it. Every conscious perception is a delayed reaction, a second-hand impression of what has already passed. The present moment is never quite yours. By the time you grasp it, it is already gone. This is the paradox of self-awareness. To be conscious is to always arrive late to your own life, and yet something acts before thought. Something moves before the mind can name it. What is that something? Who is the one that breathes before the thought of breath arises? The distance between thought and reality. The world you experience is not the world itself. It is an echo, a reconstruction, a shadow of something that has already moved on. Your senses take in raw data, but before you are even aware of it, the mind has already distorted it, shaped it, given it meaning. By the time you see the sunset, the light that touched your eyes has already changed. By the time you hear the note of a song, it has already dissolved into silence. If thought is always a step behind reality, then what is truly happening in real time? What is living your life before you notice that life is happening? The moment you try to observe yourself, you create distance. You step outside of yourself to look in. This is the paradox of self-reflection. The observer is always separate from the observed. When you ask, "Who am I?" the question itself splits you into two, the one who asks and the one being questioned. But which one is the real you? This split is the root of all suffering. The moment you become aware of yourself, you are no longer fully present in experience. You are divided, torn between being and knowing, action and observation. And yet you cannot stop thinking your way through life. You cannot silence the observer without becoming unconscious. So what does it mean to be free? To think and yet not be trapped by thought? To act without hesitation but not as an automaton? The illusion of control. Most people believe they control their thoughts. This is the greatest illusion. Try for a moment to stop thinking. Command the mind to be silent. What happens? Thoughts arise anyway, as if out of nowhere. They come unbidden, appearing and vanishing like waves in the ocean. If you are truly the master of your own mind, why can't you silence it at will? Perhaps the truth is the opposite. You do not think your thoughts think you. They arise from somewhere deeper than the conscious self, from the vast unknown beneath the surface of awareness. The moment you try to grasp them, they shift. Like a dream that dissolves upon waking, thoughts are not solid objects but passing ripples in a sea of unconscious movement. So what then is this thing we call the self? If you are not the author of your own thoughts, then who or what is writing the story of your life? Beyond the thinking mind. To glimpse the answer, consider moments when thought disappears. In moments of deep absorption, when music moves through you, when the body dances without self-awareness, when danger demands instant reaction, thought does not lead, it follows. The mind falls silent, and something else takes over. This state is not unconsciousness, but a kind of superconsciousness. The artist lost in creation, the athlete in the midst of perfect movement, the warrior acting without hesitation. None of them are thinking, yet they are entirely present. This is the paradox. The less you interfere with life, the more freely life moves through you. The more you let go of control, the more perfectly action unfolds. But the moment you notice this state, it disappears. The second you say, "I am in the flow," you are no longer in it. Thought has returned, and with it, the separation between observer and experience. So, how does one remain in this state? How does one move beyond thought without falling into mindlessness? The shadow of thought. There is a hidden force within you that thinks before you think, acts before you act. It is the part of you that dreams when you sleep, that shudders at a forgotten memory, that knows things you have never consciously learned. It speaks in symbols, not words. It moves in the depths, shaping your life from behind the curtain of awareness. Carl Jung called this force the unconscious, but to you it may feel like fate. Everything you push away, every fear, every doubt, every unspoken longing does not disappear. It waits beneath the surface, influencing your every move. You are not a single self, but a collection of selves, some known, some hidden. And among these hidden selves is the one who truly lives in the present. When thought hesitates, the shadow acts. When you doubt, it moves forward. The shadow self does not wait for permission, it simply is. It does not ask, "Should I do this?" because it exists outside of hesitation. And so the paradox, the part of you that fears no thought is the same part that terrifies you the most. To become whole, you must meet this hidden self. But how? How do you touch what retreats the moment you turn to face it? The mirror of the world. Life reflects what you refuse to see. Every unresolved conflict, every unspoken desire, every disowned part of yourself appears outside of you, disguised as other people, as fate, as chance. What you avoid within will find its way back to you in the form of circumstances, relationships, and obsessions. The person who stays in your mind, unshakable, is not just a person. They are a mirror. A mirror for what? That depends on what you have buried. The qualities you admire in them may be the ones you have not yet claimed in yourself. The traits you despise may be the ones you fear to acknowledge. This is the law of projection. The world does not show you itself, it shows you yourself. If you want to understand why someone lingers in your thoughts, ask, what part of me do they represent? What do they awaken that I refuse to face? But beware. If you look too closely, you may see something you are not ready for, because to see another clearly means to see yourself clearly, and that is not always a comfortable sight. The death of the thinker. The mind fears silence because silence is the end of the mind. If you go far enough into stillness, you will reach a place where even the idea of yourself dissolves. No name, no history, no opinions, just raw existence. To the ego, this feels like death. But to the deeper self, it is freedom. The thoughtless thinker does not seek to silence the mind by force. He simply no longer believes in its authority. He watches thoughts arise and fall, but he is not moved by them. He acts without needing to explain himself, speaks without rehearsing his words. He does not hesitate because there is no separate self left to hesitate. The ordinary mind thinks, I must do this, or I should not do that. The awakened mind simply moves. This is the difference between the seeker and the sage. The seeker struggles to let go. The sage has forgotten what there is to hold on to. But how does one cross this final threshold? How does one step beyond the endless loops of thought into something more real? The answer is cruelly simple. You cannot. Because the moment you try, you have already failed. You cannot force yourself into thoughtlessness, just as you cannot force yourself to sleep. It happens when the effort stops, when you let go of the one who is trying to let go. And this is the final joke of the mind. The thing you are chasing is what you already are. So stop running. Let thought move through you like wind through an empty house. Do not chase it. Do not cling to it. Do not fear its silence. What remains when thought falls away? Not emptiness, not nothingness. Only this. Only what has always been.